everybody. Welcome to Realtor Rapid Fire, our 5-minute interview series where we interview top real estate agents who want to help other real estate agents. And today, we are extremely excited to have a 20-year real estate veteran with EXP, Deidre Quinn. Deidre, thank you very, very much for hanging out with us today.
Ken, thank you so very much for having me.
You bet. I love those glasses, by the way.
Thank you.
These are so boring. I wish I could pull off something.
These are $29.99 special.
I love it. All right, so let's jump right into it. Our questions for the month. One buyer question has to do with what do buyers want versus what they really want? And how often does a buyer come to you like, oh, the house has to have this, it's got to have this, and if it doesn't have this, we're not. But then they end up buying something that sometimes doesn't even resemble the original list, right? So how is it that, what do you do to help buyers uncover what they really want versus what they think they really want?
Yeah. So first of all, Ken, most of the time it changes, right? It's a process and it evolves. And we do a buyer consultation with our buyers right up front. We do it typically on Zoom, and it's usually a 30 to 40-minute call. We explain the whole process. We explain how we work, the values that we provide, and how we work together to help them find a great home and what they're looking for. And we're listening through that process and really understanding what they think they want at that point. And then, part of the second step is that we're sending out, the initial search and listings of what they think they want and where. And at that point, sometimes there's a pivot and they're like, oh, well, no. I didn't realize that most of your homes in Philadelphia are 3 and 4 stories. So, I cannot do that many steps, or, like things just change, and sometimes they change there.
Mm-hmm.
And then if they don't change there, we're scheduling a tour next to go out and see a good handful of properties and possibly different neighborhoods and locations. And that's the next chance where we really see a pivot. And, that's where someone says, well, you know what? This house doesn't have space for me to have my big holiday table where I have all my family over. Or this house doesn't have that backyard that I really enjoy sitting outside every evening and barbecuing in my yard. So then we see that pivot, and we're listening to that, and sometimes they're not even realizing that they are changing their changing gears, or really telling us exactly what they're looking for, but they are, and we're listening to that. And then we're talking that over with them and changing everything, changing our criteria accordingly, right? So, then when they say, oh, well, you know what, this house just popped up, and I'm like, you know what, but I saw that house and that one doesn't have that spot for your table. Is that going to be suitable for you? Oh, you know what? Let's not waste our time seeing that. I
That's it.
really need the spot for the table. So, yeah.
Understanding what's so important, like yes, and you're right. It takes a couple of pivot points, but you could save them a lot of time if you're listening, right?
Absolutely. So
I
so
love it.
listening and then having that conversation again with them, and really honing in on that. And then I always encourage them as well to spend time on the location, right? Like that's the one thing, you can change anything about a house or the inside of a house, most things anyway, but you can't change the location. So go hang out
Yeah.
there, check it out, see how long it's going to take you to get to work in the morning, or see how long it's going to take you to get to the theater or the restaurants, or what's important in your lifestyle, because that's important as well.
Cool. All right, so let's shift over to sellers. Now, one of the things I've learned, and I said this, before, is that, as being in this business, working with real estate agents, but also being a seller myself at times, for some reason there seems to be more fear involved on the seller side. I find there's a lot of unknowns on the buy side, but with sellers, what do sellers fear most, in your opinion, and what are some things you do to help them overcome that fear?
Yeah, so I think sellers really fear the unknown. Okay, and that unknown can be a variety of things. We're always looking at the big picture. I encourage my team and my agents to look at the big picture and really see, like, if a seller doesn't have a spot to go next, well, that can be, really scary and uncertain. And you really want to look at that big picture. Are they selling their house first? And then what are they doing in the interim? And that can be an unknown. You know, it's also, everyone doesn't sell a house every day, right? So the unknown can also be emotional attachment. And am I going to miss my house? This is where I grew up, or this is where I raised my kids, or so what is that? And you know, how am I going to feel through that process? And you know, and where am I headed? And am I going to be able to build those same memories and all of those things, right? So I think really what it's all about, educating them, empowering them to make decisions, and with that brings clarity, and that clarity helps guide them to make the decisions, the correct decisions for them on the timing, and knowing what steps that they should be taking next.
And you're right. The experience, 20 years experience in the business, right? Like something, what comes with that is the ability to see around corners. You know, it's not like the first time you're dealing with this particular emotion or dealing with this particular, reservation. So I'm sure that has something to do with it. So that's great answers on that. Fun question. You ready?
Ready.
If so, April showers bring May flowers. May flowers, as we know, brings pilgrims. But if you could plant one seed, that's a bad dad joke. If you could plant one magic seed, and what would it be?
So if I could plant one magic seed, I would plant a seed to grow trust. And I think that trust is one of the most important factors in a real estate agent. And I think with trust, everything else flows. When your client trusts what you're doing and knows that you are out for their best interest and their best interest only. I only will represent one side of a transaction because of that as well, because I always want to be very clear on who I'm representing, and that I am there for them, and it's only about what they need and what's best for them. So anything else follows, right? So once your client knows that they have that trust in you, that's everything, because they trust what you're saying, they know you're looking out for their best interests. If they ask you their options, you give them their options, and then they can see through that with clarity and make the decision that's right for them, knowing that you are out for their best interests and giving them the options the way that you see it for them.
I think that's a great answer, and I think that for agents that are early in their career, one of the best ways to create trust is just simply commit and come through on your smallest commitments. I think that people, busy agents, busy people, they kind of, even if they miss the smallest commitment, they think, oh, it's no big deal. I said I was going to be here at 5 and I'm here at 5:05. Make your smallest commitments, because that's where the trust is built. And I think that is an absolutely phenomenal answer. Phenomenal answer. Well, Deidre, thank you very much for joining us today. I really enjoyed it. I love when these conversations come from pure curiosity, and I'm listening for the answers for my own. I'm spoiled. I get to ask all these great questions, and I get the benefit of getting all the answers. So thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully you'd be willing to come on again.
Thanks for the opportunity, Ken. Have an amazing day.
You too.